Hi, everyone. Welcome to Link Together, the Art of Human Connection show. I'm Leanne Isaacson and really excited to bring you this week's guest, who is Bruce Johnston from Toronto in Canada. So welcome, Bruce. Welcome to the show.
And good evening, or I suppose good morning. Good evening for me. Good morning for you, Leanne. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Bruce, so yeah, welcome to the show. Just to give everyone a little bit of background, so I am here in Adelaide in South Australia, and Bruce is in Toronto in Canada. So I'm at the bottom of the world. Bruce is at the top of the world, so he's in Toronto. And my fantastic producer, Rob, is in Baltimore in Maryland. So we've again got another international show for you today. So Bruce, I'll quickly give people a bit of an understanding how Bruce and I met. So we met through a mutual connection of mine, Andy Foote. And I was talking to Andy one day about some of the stuff that I was wanting to do on LinkedIn. And Bruce said, Andy said, I've got this really great mate in Canada that can give you a hand. So he said, connect with Bruce on LinkedIn and, just have a chat to him. So literally I just sent Bruce a connection request and said, hey, this is who I am. Andy suggested I contact you. So I think and I had a look, and that was October the 5th, 2015. So Bruce, it's been 2 years. 2 years since we've actually known each other.
Seems a lot longer.
Oh dear, I'm not sure whether that was said nicely or not.
In a nice way.
So yeah, Bruce. So if you can just tell everyone that's watching who you are, what you do, and yeah, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Well, what I do is I'm a sales consultant who specializes in LinkedIn. So I teach individuals and companies, usually small companies, how to use LinkedIn more effectively, and especially in a sales sense, a little bit less in a marketing sense, but mostly from a sales sense. My background is in sales. I've been doing sales since the mid-'80s, and I've been doing this for a little bit over 6 years now.
So when did you come to LinkedIn?
I came to LinkedIn. I was running a manufacturing company here in Toronto, and one of my employees told me back in 2009, you should get on this LinkedIn thing. You should get on this LinkedIn thing. So I had to look at it, and like a lot of people, I went, okay, so what type thing? I don't need a job. Why would I need this thing? But I signed up and started collecting a few connections, and like a lot of people, I think even now, I would go to LinkedIn once every month or every 2 months, go have a look around, look at a couple of my competitors, find a couple of my friends, find a couple of ex-employees, connect with a few people, read an article or two, look at a group, and then log off and sort of go, what's all the fuss about? It's a way to sort of kill a lunch hour, maybe something like that every once in a blue moon. But and then I got laid off from the company that I was running because they needed to cut back on expenses, and I was the most expensive employee, and so that was the end of me. So I was left 7 years ago with the task of reinventing myself, and with a lot of time on my hands, I started looking at LinkedIn and started really actually getting into it, and became minorly obsessed with it, in that I kind of figured out that, hey, this is a database of every possible business-to-business customer anyone could ever want. And this is the type of thing that I wish I had had when the company had sent me to Vancouver in the 90s to open up the sales territory there. When they assigned me the Midwestern US, it said, open it up out of Chicago type thing and go start up our customer base in the Midwestern US. And when they'd sent me to Atlanta to do some work down there, I wish that this type of database was there at that time. It's what I always do. I wish there was this magical database that had everybody in it, so I could figure out how AT&T works, or I could figure out how someone else works. But then all of a sudden I realized, gosh, this is that database. Someone went and did this thing. And then so I learned everything I could about it, just taught myself. And then people started asking me questions. And then after a while, people started offering to pay me to answer their questions. And I kind of went, hey, you know what? There's probably a living in this. And I've been doing it ever since.
So the people that you tend to work with, like, so how do people find you? Like, when, like, do you, so how, from a marketing perspective, like, is it as I mean, yeah, how do people find you?
Almost, I get some clients come to me through other clients. I get referrals, like a lot of people do in business. Some people will, actually, most people find me through my writing on LinkedIn. I'm minorly prolific in terms of publishing articles and posts and updates on LinkedIn, and I get a lot of people find me from that. I'm doing it every week or more than once a week for 3 years now. So I've got a pretty big following and a lot of people that I think like what I write, and I think the way I write, which is a little matter of fact, a little bit irreverent, and I think they like that. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so your posts are, like they're full of insightful information. They're full of some humor, and I love your posts. And I'm not a great content creator, like writer myself, but I can guarantee when because I know when you publish your posts. So, as we know, the LinkedIn notifications now, as far as when people publish posts, are absolutely crappy. They're terrible. So, I've got to the stage of go, oh, right, now I know that Bruce will have published a post. So every now and then, we strike it rich when, it appears actually in my news feed straight away, which is really exciting. But usually you've actually got to go and dig to find your post. But so Bruce, as far as your, how do you decide what you're actually going to write about?
I have, it comes mostly from talking to people. When I talk to people, people ask me questions. People will come to me and ask me, everyone starts asking me the same question over a course of a couple of weeks. I'm going, okay, if 4 or 5 people want to know about this, maybe 400 or 500 or 4,000 or 5,000 people want to know about this too. So that'll give me ideas. A lot of times they'll be tangential from something I've already written and published, and it'll come in a comment from someone, or they'll sort of go off on a tangent, and I'll go, okay, that'd be interesting to talk about that as a separate topic type thing. I have a file on my computer that is 78 pages long that I call my fragments file, and it's all my fragments and post ideas, just tons of them. And once a week, I'll just go in there and just have a look through it and go, okay, what should I write about? What have I got in here? What's interesting? And something usually grab me, and I'll wind up writing it up.
So do you write them all literally off the cuff, or do you sit there and write a heap of articles, or does it depend on what?
I'll typically go, okay, I need an idea, I need a rough draft, which is all my bullet points. So, for example, I was writing one this morning. I can't remember what it was about, but I was writing one. I was on fake profiles and why people would want to have a fake profile and what they would use them for. And so I went, okay, what are the uses for that? Okay, I come up with the 4 main bullet points, and then I go, okay, now I need a rough draft. And the rough draft is I need my introduction, I need my 4 bullet points, I need my discussion, I need my conclusion type thing. And I'll just do that, and I'll just write away at it. And if I get sick of it or I run out of gas, I'll just leave it, and I'll just put it on the side burner for a couple of days, and I'll come back to it again type thing. But I've usually got enough of them going on at the same time where, for example, I've got 5 or 6 that are pretty well written right now. So I take half an hour to finish them off and get them ready to go.
Yeah, and that was one thing that we were talking about earlier about the fake profiles. So, in my world, in the network that I've got, I know that there would be quite a few people that I've accepted have got fake profiles. At the moment, I haven't personally. They've caused me no issue whatsoever. And so, it's interesting, different people's takes on fake profiles. So, from your perspective, how do you spot a fake profile?
There are a whole bunch of different things you can look for. You can look for photos that don't look like a real person, or that look like someone that's a model, or it looks like it should be used in a L'Oreal ad and not for a LinkedIn profile photo, that sort of thing. That's one of the big things. The biggest thing I look for is I look for things that don't hang together well. That looks like they've taken something from one aisle in the grocery store and something from another aisle in the grocery store, and they don't fit together. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I've had ones where someone has come to me and they say they're currently living in Mexico, but they were born and raised in Spain, and the language they speak is Japanese. And you just sort of go, these as disparate elements, that's okay. You can't dispute one or the other. But when you put them all together, you just go, this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Now a lot of them are getting. We'll say hi to Andy. Andy, just give us a shout out. We'll say hi back to Andy.
Hi, Andy. Hey, Andy. How are you? I'll actually wave. Thanks for tuning in. As you know, Andy, it was you and I that put Bruce together. So thanks for joining. But yeah, Bruce, I must admit that, like over the years, I've, certainly accepted a lot of connection requests, and probably back in the earlier days, people weren't, like people that didn't have photos and people that didn't have many connections. It was sort of just the nature of the beast when people started to come onto the platform. So I probably always took the attitude that, give them the benefit of the doubt. So until someone gives me some reason to disconnect from them, then, I've just accepted. But as my network has got to the size that it is, I think, really, now it would be good to go back and cull some that are fake. But, even now, like I get connection requests, and I'm certainly don't accept connection requests now that I think are fake profiles, and you're right, they just don't make sense. But one of the interesting things that I wonder is, so if someone was starting on LinkedIn now, and I think about it quite often, how do they then become a profile that people don't think is fake? Because if you've only got a few connections, so as you're building it up, then how do you get to the point where if you're trying to connect with people, they're not thinking it's fake? So it's sort of one of those, could be a bit of a chicken and the egg for the poor people who are just starting on the platform now.
Right. Well, I think that the magic way of doing it, and I just actually figured this out a couple of weeks ago myself, is to look for activity. If someone has a fake profile, they may have lots of connections. They can even get recommendations back and forth. But being active and faking like you're active is really difficult. Now I'm talking about outside of likes, because you can just go on site and you can go on the site and you can like 9 articles from someone in seconds, bang, just done like that. But I mean things like sharing and adding a comment when you share it, going, hey, I think this is really good, that sort of thing. And then or doing comments on posts where it's obvious the person read the post and does have an opinion about the topic, or the way that the article was argued, that sort of thing. That sort of activity is something that's very difficult and very, very time-consuming to fake. And let's face it, if you're taken in by someone who's gone to that much trouble, then, well, you're going to be taken in, and all of us are, because that's But that's the biggest way I find these days. Yeah,
and you're right. As far as activity and commenting and. That certainly, it certainly does take time, but it's certainly something that is beneficial. Now, Bruce, one of the things that over the time you and I, so when we first started talking, it was very much like me saying, "Hey, Bruce, how do you do this, and what do you know about this?" But just in the last probably 6 months, we've got onto different topics, and I know we were talking about you coming onto the show, and you said, well, you couldn't because you were going on holiday. And so, I was quizzing you about where you were going, and so you shared some of that with me. So I think Rob's got some pictures of and now I'll just for anyone that's so I'd actually just been on a girls' weekend. And when Bruce and I, when he was talking about going down to where he was going for his holiday, which he'll tell me because must admit, I'm not sure where it is, being being at the bottom of the world. And so I just flicked Bruce a message in a, like in a message, and this was my obligatory girls' weekend champagne, photo shoot. And then Bruce immediately sent me one back of his. So I think Rob has got Bruce's shot as well. Oh, so yeah, Bruce did send me this one.
This was my return salvo. This was I go down to an area called the Finger Lakes, which is about 40 or 50 miles south of Rochester, Syracuse area in Western New York, every year with anywhere from 8 to 10 or 12 friends. And one of my friends and I, we were the first people down there, and we were in charge of laying in the initial supplies before everyone else got there. Now, this did consist of groceries, but it also consisted of at least having some wine for when everyone else got there. And as I pointed out to Leanne when I sent this picture, if you look at the far right of the photo, you can see the balance involved where we didn't include buying one bottle of water.
Yes, that was very responsible, I thought. That was very responsible. And then you sent me a photo of
there you are. There's the bottle of water.
Yeah, there's the bottle of wine. The bottle of water. Yeah, no, that's good. And then you sent me a photo of the sunset, and so then I think I sent So this was one of the photos that Bruce sent me. Like he said, this is the view that he would be having. And so then I sent him a photo of when on the girls' weekend. This is on the Murray River in South Australia. So this is where I was when I had taken the photos of. Yep. So that's right. It'll be here in a second. But it was just like it, and I think from my perspective is it was. From LinkedIn's perspective, we all think that, it's such a, it's a professional platform, and, and my attitude's always been that, like you form relationships in all sorts of parts of your life, and no matter what the location or the background, it's just amazing being able to share the information. So yeah, so this was the picture that I sent back to Bruce. So this is I think there was six women. We go away every once a year in all sorts of different places. And so one of the girls took their boat. So this is the Murray River in South Australia. So Bruce and I were trading photos of our holidays and our wine. And I actually didn't take. I do have a photo of our wine stash, or they were actually empty bottles. But I decided that probably wasn't appropriate. Because there's far too many.
Well, it's interesting because this was a development where LinkedIn only put in the capability to attach photos to your messages a few months ago. So a few months ago, we couldn't have done this, but it shows how the platform is changing. And it also shows, like you said, that, hey, there's an actual social element where you actually do form connections with people. And it's not just about work. It's not just, in our case, talking about the way we're using LinkedIn or clients are using LinkedIn, that sort of thing. We're having this absolutely wild message-based conversation back and forth going, I can top that with how much fun we had. Oh yeah, I can top that with how much fun we had, type thing. But it was
exactly
that was a very, very fun 15 minutes that morning, sending all the photos back and forth going, oh wait, I've got one where I can top that.
I know. It was priceless. Bruce, one of the other things that, when I was, like sometimes we've been connected for a couple of years, and I was thinking, oh, now what else don't I know about Bruce? Anyway, so I was doing a bit of digging on your LinkedIn profile as well. And this, I'm not quite sure whether you call it professional stalking, but anyway, but I did notice that you're a member of a few guitar groups. And,
yes.
As we know, on LinkedIn, I think that it's still 50 groups that you can be a member of. I don't know, I've lost track these days, but
it's 100 now.
Is it 100? Oh, okay. Shows you how often I must admit groups are not something that I spend a huge amount of time in. But when I was looking, I thought, oh, that's interesting. You're a member of some guitar groups. So so just give us a bit of info on your guitar. I think you might have a few guitars to show.
I've got I started playing guitar back when I was in university, which was a long, long time ago, back in the 70s. And then I quit for about 20 years. And then I started again when I turned 40. And at that point, I had the misfortune of making some good money in sales. So I started buying guitars. And it's like a lot of these habits, like, it's exotic cars and stuff like that. It's a bad, bad habit because you start spending a lot of money. And, for example, this is one of my guitars, and this one is the one that's rumored to have been owned by someone really famous, and I haven't been able to nail it down. But this is one where someone took it's a Gibson Les Paul. You can't see it because it's the back of it there. But someone has done blue sparkle metallic flake paint, and has actually painted a killer whale. That's a killer whale on the back of the guitar, and it's also on the front also. But this is one that's rumored to be owned by someone famous. There's the front of the guitar there, type thing. And we've never been able to nail it down. There's a guitar that's extremely similar to this one that was owned by Clapton.
Okay.
I've been able to find that one, but I've never been able to find who the supposedly other famous guitar player was who might have owned this one. So unfortunately, I think it's going to stay that way. There's rumors, but I've never been able to nail anything down. So I'd like to think I have a wonderful, big, expensive guitar, but then again, it may just be a regular guitar. You never know.
Oh, well, maybe someone will see this show and, might know the owner, and they'll be able to get in touch with us and tell us.
If they want to, you can tell them.
Yeah.
I still have it. There it is. You can see, I don't know if you can see with the light, you can see there's a killer whale embossed there, painted in the background on the guitar there. So, but one of the ones.
No, well, that so from LinkedIn's perspective, I know that, like I said, I noticed that you were members of a guitar group and a blues group. So are they are they active on LinkedIn as far as
for the most part, groups on LinkedIn have, I don't know, fallen on hard times, or neglect is the right way of putting it, but they never really did what they were supposed to. They never got the engagement that I think that they should have gotten. I think it was a combination of a little bit of mismanagement by LinkedIn and mismanagement by the individual group owners, and then both of them blaming each other. And it just has never been the forum it should have been. LinkedIn groups should have been a place where people came and spent a lot of time on LinkedIn, and that's just not happened. There are a few groups that are run extraordinarily well that are really, really good, but it really takes a very dedicated group owner and managers or admins to take care of the group and keep all the junk out. Right now, most groups are glorified notice boards where people will come in, post a link to their latest blog post, and run away. And that's it. So I'm disappointed. I think it's probably the best way to put my experience with groups. I've been disappointed, and I have run them on behalf of clients. They take an extraordinary amount of work is required to get one to work and to get it work properly and make it worthwhile.
And it's interesting because like say groups on Facebook tend to be really used a lot and really successful. So I've always wondered why the LinkedIn groups have not not had the same sort of feel and the same sort of interaction that Facebook groups tend to have. But now one thing that I did want to ask you was about your InMail. I know you do a lot of work with InMail on LinkedIn, and it's certainly something that most people don't have a lot of idea as to the power of them and why you would use them and why you would use them instead of something else. So can you just give me some insights on that, please?
Sure. The InMail is for the most part, it's part of the Sales Navigator or part of the recruiter packages, the premium offerings from LinkedIn. And what an InMail is it's the ability to send a message to someone you are not connected with. So on LinkedIn, we're all connected with each other. That means we're ones. So you're a first level connection with me, same as Andy Foot's a first level connection with both of us. Rob's a first level connection with me after connecting with me last week prior to this. Then there are twos, people that are one away, and threes, people that are two people away type thing. But what an InMail allows you to do is it allows you to send a message to someone who is a second level or a third level connection from you. And they are, for the most part, misunderstood. They are underused, underutilized, and badly utilized by most people. Most people don't understand how to use them. Most people don't use the ones that they've got. You're allocated a certain number every month if you have a premium account. In my case, I've got an old Sales Navigator account. I think I get 12 a month type thing. So I use those, and I try and use them all every month, because what's the point of having something with value if you're not going to use it? And the other thing is, most people just use them poorly. They'll just go out and they'll go, great, because I can send a message to Bill Gates, I'm going to send an InMail to Bill Gates. And in that InMail is going to be a sales pitch. And of course, Bill Gates and every other person who receives an InMail that's just a blatant sales pitch, just going to toss it. They're going to ignore it. Or they'll report that person to LinkedIn as someone who's a spammer, which is basically what they are.
Yeah.
That's the big problem. There's a place for them, and there are some terrific opportunities to be had with InMail, but most people just don't make the connection, so to speak, between what they could be doing and what they are doing.
Yeah. I know that I've used and again, I'm one of those guilty ones that, I've had a premium account forever, and I think had 15, 15 as more, that's what I tend to use more of. But I certainly have used InMail especially when you look at somebody's profile and see how active they are actually on the network. If they're not really active, then if you send them a connection request, they might actually not see that. So there certainly has been time where I have sent someone, I can give a couple of examples, when there was a fella in Australia that had written an article in the Financial Review about the lack of CEOs in Australia on LinkedIn, and it was a really interesting story in this paper. So I thought I'd really like to actually send a message to the journalist that wrote it and say, great article. And I thought, well, if I just send him a connection request, that's going to look really silly. Plus I didn't have the amount of characters to be able to send in that request. So I sent him an InMail and just said, great article, just gave him some of my thoughts. And he sent me a message straight back saying that he'd had a message from one of the readers about, and I can't even remember now exactly, what the question was. And so he asked me what my opinion, on the question that one of his readers had given. So, it certainly is a way of getting to someone, because it goes into both their LinkedIn inbox, but it also goes to their email address, doesn't it?
Correct. But I'll give you a real world example where I use it all the time, and that is when I publish an article like I do usually on Tuesday morning. So Tuesday morning I'll publish an article. During the course of the day, I will get a lot of people will like the article if it's a good one. They'll like it, they'll comment on it, they'll share it. At the end of the day, I'll usually wind up and have between 12 and 20 new followers, people that read the article and want to follow me now, that sort of thing. So what I will do is I will go through the lists of all those people, all the people that liked it, shared it, commented on it, new people that followed me, people that looked at my profile today because they probably looked at it based on having seen the article. And I'll go through all those people. If I find anybody interesting, I send them an InMail and asking and saying thank you for, for example, thank you for commenting on my post or anything I can help you with, that sort of thing, and leaving the door open and basically telling them if they would like to connect with me, I would be happy to accept. And I send those as InMails to people. And so I send InMails to people every week. And I get a really good response rate on those. And that's where I get a lot of my connections. That's where I get a lot of my sales leads, is I go out and aggressively go after the people that engage with my content. But InMails are an integral part of doing that. And it works. It works extremely well.
So with an InMail, Bruce, if somebody doesn't reply, someone doesn't respond to that InMail, there's a certain length of time that you actually get that InMail back, from a quota perspective?
That's the way it used to be, not anymore. These days, if you send an InMail, the person has, I think they've got 90 days to respond to it, maybe it's 30 days. But if you don't get a response, you lose the InMail. if you do get a response, any response, including I'm not interested, you get a credit for another one. And you basically, in effect, get a replacement for the one you used with that person. So if you are good with email, you can take in my case, I get 12 a month. Typically, I get a response rate of around 70%, 75%. So I'll use my 12. I'll get 9 responses. So I get 9 free ones. I'll use those 9. Of those 9, I'll get another 6 responses. I'll get 6 more. So by the time I'm done. I've taken my 12 and I've turned them into about 30.
Oh, okay.
So if you're good at it, you will get the responses. And if you get the responses, you'll get more as a reward. It becomes really, really lucrative after a while. But the key that most people miss is they go, I need to get an appointment with this person. I'll send them an email. They ask for an appointment and they get shot down or they get no response. I don't ask for an appointment. I just want to start a conversation. All I want to do is start a conversation, because once I start the conversation, then I can take it from there. I can establish my credibility. I can maybe set up a connection with them and go from there. I'm not asking too much in my InMail. I just want to get it started. Most people.
Yeah, it certainly is. There is an art to actually messaging. Absolutely. So one of the things I also wanted to ask you about was, like, I've got a premium account, but I've also gone to Sales Navigator. You've been on Sales Navigator for a while now. So what are some of the benefits of being on Sales Navigator from your perspective?
Well, first of all, let me tell you a story. So I think it was about 3 years ago, Sales Navigator came out. And as a salesperson, I went, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And I immediately signed up for it. And I had it for about 3 months. And I just went, this is crap. And I got rid of it. And I just went, this is not worthwhile at all. This is not ready for prime time. Then I went back about a year later, I went back and they'd fixed it. And I've had it now for, I suppose, another 18 months or so. But it's good now. It's much better. There's still facets of Sales Navigator that, quite frankly, I think are a waste of time. But the big things you can get with Sales Navigator are the InMail, which we just talked about, and also much, much more comprehensive search capability. There's no commercial search limit, which they will put on you if you search too many times in a month using the free version of LinkedIn. There are a lot of extra filters. There's about 20 or 23 filters. There are more saved searches. There's much better geography searches. You used to be able to search within a lot of states very well with free LinkedIn. Now with Sales Navigator, you can go to a lot of different towns down to a much more minute level for geography filters. There are things that I think are not worthwhile. And among the 2 big things are you can tag people and designate them as leads, and you can write notes on their profiles. There's limited utility in that, but I really don't think that's worthwhile. It doesn't replace having Salesforce or something like that. And I don't think the presentation is quite there for how they present the publishing and the commentary and things done by people that you're following, the people you have saved as leads or the companies. It just doesn't look good yet. It actually doesn't look as good as the homepage feed. And there are a lot of people that would tell you they're not happy with the way the homepage feed is set up. The other thing that I do not think is worthwhile is LinkedIn flogs their social selling index, which I think is more or less a waste of time. If you don't know how to use LinkedIn, you should learn how to use LinkedIn. The social selling index does not mean you're a better social seller. The social selling index basically is an indicator of how often you are doing different things on LinkedIn, whether those are the right things for you to be doing in your unique situation is something different altogether. So I'm highly skeptical that a one-size-fits-all way of measuring what you're doing on LinkedIn is appropriate for everybody on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Well, you've just crushed me with that social selling index, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, and look, the point you make about, like different people using it for different things. I mean, and that's certainly one of the things that I always talk about is that, we all use we always use different platforms for different reasons with different outcomes and different philosophies on it. And it's a bit like the size of your network, and accepting connection requests from people you don't know. And we all have different philosophies on it. So but the social selling index, I've never understood it. But I get really excited when it's gone up 1%, and I'm now up to 88%, and I think, okay, so what more do I have to do? Does anyone get 100%?
Well, if you understand how it works, you could spend your time and game it such that you could get 100%. I mean, I'm normally around 84 or 85 because I don't spend enough time in groups and I don't share enough valuable content. And basically what they're saying is I should be taking posts from people and sharing them with my network. Well, I don't do that because I take my time instead and I actually write my own posts with my own research and spending my time writing my own content. So I'm sort of being penalized for doing something of my own and trying to have my own intellectual property, so to speak, rather than sharing other people's. So that doesn't bother me. I could stop writing and then share a bunch of other people's posts and probably get the 99. But that's that'd be sort of like, okay, just to prove I can do it. But I'm doing fine being a poor measly 84, 85 guy every week. That's fine with me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Well, there must be something I'm doing differently because I'm not a great content. I'm not a prolific content writer or creator. So I'm certainly not at that percentage because of my content. But Bruce, one of the things that so I was sitting here, I was thinking about what else I was going to ask you. So what's one of your most memorable connections that you have on LinkedIn?
I don't think of people as individuals that way, because I talk to so many people and interact with so many people on a daily basis on LinkedIn. There's kind of classes. The memorable people for me on LinkedIn have been the ones that I've gotten to know and develop relationships with that are past just sending the odd message back and forth. I mean, I probably have 20 or 30 people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn that I consider to be colleagues and I consider to be friends. I'll talk with them on the phone maybe the odd time, but I've never met any of them. Some of them aren't that far away. A good example is Andy. Andy's in Chicago. That's not that far from Toronto. I've never met Andy in person. I may never meet Andy in person. The odds of me meeting you in person, being on the other side of the world, are pretty remote. But that doesn't make them any less people I consider friends and colleagues. So that's something that I really do enjoy. That's come out of using LinkedIn, is I've got these people I consider colleagues, I consider close associates that I can talk with and trade notes on, and enjoy their company, even if the most part is virtual.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that certainly is one of the for me that's been one of the things that is the power of LinkedIn, but it's also about how you actually build the relationships and the connections, and picking, having a coffee or a wine, as you and I would have in real life, is obviously the ultimate. And I will jump on a plane one day, and I'll turn one day. So don't, be very alarmed. But like the next best thing is, I think one of the first things we did was got on a Skype call, and
right.
So it's about actually making that as best you can, whether it be literally sitting down across the kitchen table having a wine, or again sitting on Skype or whatever other technology is available to make that personal face. It's about the eyeball to eyeball and being able to see the smiles and the laughs, and I think that that's certainly from a connection perspective is something that I very much value as well.
Yeah. It gives you a whole new perspective on people when you actually talk. And Skype is great because it allows me, for example, it's allowed me to talk to people in Europe and in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all over the place. And you get a lot more, you get a much better feel for what the person is about and what they're trying to do and how they're using LinkedIn and what their goals are, that sort of thing. So.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. So as far as, I mean, like one of the things that for me, I quite often think is the power of relationships, and the fact that we're colleagues, and effectively, like in a lot of worlds, we would be seen to be competitors, and because we do similar sorts of things in different parts of the world. But I think that that's certainly one of the things that I've noticed is, when you're able to collaborate and share, the amount of times that I'll flick you a message saying, "Hey, Bruce, is this, this has changed in my world. Has it changed in your world?" And I think that that's, like the beauty of having, colleagues and building the relationships.
Well,
so, yeah.
If there are 500 million LinkedIn users out there, and there's a couple hundred people doing what we're doing, there's lots to go around. There's a lot of people that need help. There's a lot of people that could use our assistance. I'd never worry about that sort of thing. I mean, I'll have, and it's odd because most of my business I do virtually. I don't go and see almost any of my clients. I do it all from home. So I can operate anywhere. I've had clients in South Africa. I've had clients in Australia, Israel, Europe, of course, all over North America, China. But I don't consider myself as competing with the people in those areas, because they can just as easily have clients in Toronto or up in this area. So that doesn't bother me. It's a free market. It's, you go with who you think will best help you with whatever your idiosyncratic needs are.
Absolutely. So, Bruce, I'm just thinking about, so if you could give 3 tips, your top tips on using LinkedIn for, I was going to say for the normal people, for somebody, that you work with, what would they be?
I have 5 things that I more or less teach everybody, but that I teach my clients. But the 3 things I would say would be visible. In other words, be visible so people can see you. And that would be, and you don't have to publish, you don't have to write content. You don't have to write a lot of content like someone like myself, like I do. But you should be out there. You should be, if you see posts that are interesting, put a comment on it. And share things. Well, I say share with intent. If you see a post or an article you think would be interesting in one of your connections, you have the ability to share it specifically with that connection. And that's something you can do that's very personal and adds value for them. So I would be visible, raise your visibility. The second thing is to be credible, and that is to establish your worth with people. I actually have a post to this effect I'm going to write for the next week or two. But every time you talk with someone, you either improve your credibility a little bit or you lower your credibility a little bit. You should always be striving to raise your credibility with someone and establish yourself. This is the issue a lot of people have, where as salespeople they fail on LinkedIn, is they don't seek to establish their credibility. They want to connect with someone and give them a sales pitch, and that's it. So they don't have any credibility, so the person isn't going to want to be pitched by them. Then the last thing is to always be adding value. I always try and add value for people. My general format for a message to anyone is I thank them for either taking interest in myself or what I'm doing. I try and add value. I try and point out something that they could fix or they could change in their profile, a suggestion. I'll send them a PDF of something about how to use LinkedIn in a different way, or something they may not have thought of. And then some sort of call to action. The call to action can be something as simple as, let's stay in touch. I'll send you a message 2 weeks from now, or we'll get in touch and we'll arrange a phone call. But those are the 3 things I would do: be visible, be credible, and add value. Those are the 3 things I tell people. If you do that, people are going to respond to you, and they're going to respond to you positively.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, Bruce. Well, look, thank you. I think that we earlier tonight we were a bit concerned that we were not going to be able to fill in, like we were only going to be able to talk for 10 minutes, but I did assure you that I can keep talking, and I can pull out information. So look, thanks so much for being on the show, Bruce. It's been fabulous. Always love chatting to you, and like your insights and being, the knowledge that you have of how to use LinkedIn and the platform and engagement and like, again, the friendship that you and I have developed is is fabulous, and I'm the same. You know, like I certainly deem, you know, as far as work colleagues, absolutely, but as friends, it's been fantastic. So look, thank you. Now, if anyone would like to get in touch with Bruce, have a look go to Bruce's profile on LinkedIn. Probably be a good idea to send him an InMail.
Yes, I'm Bruce. It's linkedin.com/in/Bruce Johnston 115 is my handle on LinkedIn. So that's my profile URL type thing.
Fantastic.
Or if you do a search on LinkedIn for Bruce Johnston in Toronto, I'm probably going to come up pretty quick, pretty high in the search results.
Absolutely. And if for some reason someone can't find Bruce, you know, flick me a message and I'll be able to send you Bruce's profile info. So look, thanks very much for again, Bruce. Thank you as usual to my fantastic producer Rob Hix up in Baltimore in Maryland, and who does just an amazing job every week of pulling together the information that I managed to, you know, throw together at the last minute and think, oh yeah, I'll throw that to Rob now and he can put that into the show. So he does a wonderful job. So if anyone needs any video created, would like to have a show produced, please get in touch with Robert Hix on LinkedIn or Hixvideo. So again, thanks to everyone for watching, people watching live. Thanks for watching, people watching the replay. And I look forward to bringing you another episode of Link Together, the Art of Human Connection. Thank you. Bye for now.